Welcome to the Find Your Voice, Change Your Life podcast with psychologist Dr. Doreen Downing. Listen in as Doreen interviews people who felt they didn't have a voice or who suffered extreme speaking anxiety. You'll hear stories about how they struggled to speak up, what they did to find their authentic voice, and the confidence they now feel to speak up and make an impact. If you want to get started right away to find your voice, download Doreen's free 7-step guide to fearless speaking at doreen7steps.com. And now, here is Doreen.
Hi, this is Dr. Doreen Downing. I'm here as host of the Find Your Voice, Change Your Life podcast. I interview people who have fascinating stories about their life and how at some point either they lost their voice or maybe they never had it in the first place. And they talk about their journey to find it. And today is going to be absolutely fascinating. I'm really excited to share it with you, John Kippen, who had, well, he'll tell you way more about it, but I'll read about it in the bio, but it has something to do with having a diagnosis and how after an operation, it changed his looks, and that made him hide out for quite a long time. So that's just briefly, only just the beginning of what we're going to be covering today. Let me first say hi to John.
Hi, Doreen. Great to be here.
Yes, yeah, we're waving at each other for those of you who are just listening, but you can also hear what a fantastic voice. I mean, there's a lot of confidence in this man's voice, right, folks?
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm going to read the bio you sent or that I found. John Kippen is an entrepreneur, professional magician, speaker, resilience and empowerment coach, and published author. And John was dealt a bad blow in 2002 when he was diagnosed with a large benign brain tumor. Its removal, although successful, left him with permanent facial paralysis, which stopped his forward momentum, forcing him into hiding for more than 12 years. As John hit bottom, he rediscovered his childhood love for performing magic and storytelling. Now filled with passion and hope, he discovered that his facial difference had become his greatest superpower. And this new mindset gave John the strength to live life with joy and become a sought-after resilience and empowerment coach who uses the lessons and methodologies he learned overcoming his adversity to inspire and assist his clients to get out of their own way and live their best lives. And you've got two models here. I'm going to read both of them. Being different is your superpower. Oh, thank you, John. And the second one, feed your heart with your art. Boy, we've got lots of nuggets already just in your bio. It's like, oh, where do we start? Well, usually where I like to start, because I'm a psychologist, I just get curious about where you were born, what family you came into, and what that situation was. It just gives us a good grounding for where you started.
I grew up in Los Angeles in the San Fernando Valley. Both my parents were attorneys. I was an only child, and I went to one school from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade, and it was a private school. I got interested in music and band and theater, and I saw opportunities, and I just went after them.
Uh-huh. Well, already what I'm getting is that it almost sounds ideal. Two parents who are successful, you having kind of a lot of room in a household just to be
Yeah.
yourself. And then I liked what you said about just feeling like you were maybe remembering, or maybe you were born with this kind of like opportunity is around me, so that that essence of who you are is already showing up early in life. Were
You
there
know, I
any, go on.
I work a lot with a lot of clients who have limiting beliefs, and they all come from their parents or their whoever raised them sharing their dreams of what they can be.
Right.
And a lot of people are stuck realizing after spending years working at a job or whatever, following a path that was really designed by their folks and not by themselves.
Yes.
And you get to retirement age and you look back and you go, Is that it? Is that all there was?"
Or they get halfway through their life and wake up, luckily.
Right.
Or like you, something happened to you that was a medical thing and you had to change your life. But let me, before I go further into your story around the situation that happened to you, two attorneys, I mean, that they are, I mean, traditionally attorneys can be very, um, well, I don't want to be stereotypical, but uh, did you find that there was a lot of oversight of you and how you should be or what you should be doing or how you should look? I don't know, just any kind of ways in which they put some kind of pressure on you.
My mom was the first female public defender in Los Angeles,
Wow.
and my dad had a private practice. But my mom wore the pants in the family. And I would watch my dad give in to whatever my mom wanted. That's how he made himself happy, is by making her happy.
Well,
And that was a really strong lesson that I observed throughout my childhood and adolescence and into my adulthood.
well, you have some self-awareness already, and I'd like just to follow through just a little bit more on that, observing your one parent finding how he, through another person, by focusing on another person, that's how he found his happy. But uh, how did you feel about that?
You know, I always thought my dad understood me and my mom didn't,
Uh-huh.
because my mom's patience was very, very short. And I was a creative problem solver. And I needed to understand when my mom would say something, go do this, go take out the garbage, go whatever. My brain said, well, why should I be doing that?
Uh-huh.
And if they could explain that to me and it made sense, I did it without any kind of quarrel or apprehension. But my mom's stock answer was, because I told you to.
Yes. And in that tone, wow, I'm so glad you said that in that way too. You demonstrated it. Well,
Absolutely.
I know you were in the reading I read or what we've already know about you that you were into drama, but I really appreciate you actually dramatizing that voice.
Yeah. And I wouldn't understand it. And she just closed off and sent me to my room. And I would go to my room and I would cry and be upset. My dad would come in and rub my back and say, your mom really loves you a lot. She just has very little patience, and you just need to
Uh-huh.
let her be who she is and not try to make her who you think she should be.
Well, there's kind of a smart lesson there, isn't
Oh,
there?
yeah. It was harder to do than it was
Yeah.
to think about.
You're right, right. Well, really, luckily, you had a caring person who understood a little more in depth and was there for you, almost physically, like you said, he would rub your back and
Yeah, he would calm me down. And
calm. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, so he was
beautiful.
a very wise man. Unfortunately, he fell to dementia. And
Oh,
that was
uh-huh.
so difficult for my mom.
For
My,
somebody who wants things done a certain way, and
yeah,
wow,
I would work with my mom on trying to teach her how to enter his reality
good.
instead of forcing him back into hers.
There's the theme.
And that's the only solution to keeping your loved one who has dementia home.
Oh.
before you have to institutionalize him,
Mm-hmm.
because there is no other reality but what's going on in his mind.
Uh-huh.
And the more you challenge that, the more agitated and angry they get. And it's just to say, that's fun, Dad. I think that's great.
Uh-huh.
Calms them down and they're happy again. And it was just
Uh-huh.
a lesson that my mom just couldn't appreciate.
Well, but it's really interesting, the circle that what your father gave you was deep compassion, it felt like, and then you were able to give that back to him.
Yeah, we had a great relationship even after he lost his ability to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
He would talk in phrases, uh,
Oh, huh.
things that he used to say, his favorite phrases. He would just string them together, and that's how he communicated.
Oh,
So I coined a name for that language, and I called it Kippenese.
well, that's your last name with an ease, huh? Kippen
Yes.
ease. Thank you.
Um, I don't know why we got in the track of talking about my parents, but I learned a lot from being their son and
Both
uh,
ways.
how they dealt with life
Uh-huh.
and how they didn't impose their will and their desires for me. They wanted me to be happy. That was it.
Right.
As long as I was doing something to make myself happy, they were happy.
Well, you mentioned that early on in life you were drawn to magic,
Yes.
and that was about what, in your youth, really
5 or 6.
Yeah.
My
Uh-huh.
uncle came over to visit my grandma, and I was there, and he was introduced to me, and the first thing he did was pull a quarter out from behind my ear,
One
and
of
I
those.
was immediately hooked.
Ah.
And then every year on my birthday and on Christmas, there'd be a box from Uncle Milton, and it would be a new trick for me to learn, and I would practice it, and then he would come back into town 2 or 3 times a year, and we'd sit down and spend a couple hours just practicing and adjusting the nuance and adjusting the presentation and teaching me how to build patter and a connection with my audience.
What is patter?
Just the scripting,
Okay, you mean the way you talk
the
to your
story,
audience?
the story behind the
Uh-huh.
magic, why the
Okay.
magic happens. When I perform magic, I make the magic about you, the spectator.
Uh-huh.
I'm just the conduit.
Ooh.
You make the magic happen by what you think or what you say, or
Oh.
but as I started performing after my facial paralysis, people would be distracted by my droopy left hand side of my face. And it wasn't judgment. They were just curious. They wanted to know, oh, I wonder if he had a stroke. Did he have Bell's palsy? What? And it just detracted from their enjoyment of the magic.
Uh-huh.
So I came up with an idea that I would come out on stage and I would sit down and I said, guys, welcome. A little bit about myself. I've been doing magic since I was 5 or 6. But in 2002, I had a brain tumor. And when they cut open the head, they traumatized my facial nerve. Well, hence the paralyzed face.
Uh-huh.
But something happened to me on that operating room table. Now, I don't know what it was because I was unconscious. All I know is I recovered. I realized I had acquired some new skills. And then I would pause and wait for my audience to get on the edge of their chairs, wanting to know what possible skills I could have acquired by having brain surgery.
Oh.
And I would look to my right and my left like it was the biggest secret, and I would lean in and whisper in a loud voice, guys, I am able to visualize people's thoughts. And
Ah.
then I do some mentalism, some mental magic.
Uh-huh.
And what that did was 2 things. Number one, it answered the question that they wouldn't ask, why my face was paralyzed.
Right, right.
And number two, I shared something personal about myself. I opened my heart to them. I
Yes.
trusted them with
Mhm.
that dark secret of mine,
Mhm.
of how many years I hid from cameras and mirrors because I didn't like the way I looked. And all of a sudden, they they opened their arms and they were entranced almost.
Yes.
And they were invested in the magic and in me.
Mhm.
I've tried to teach other magicians how to use your personality, your passions, something unique about yourself, and share that with your audience so they feel like it's a one-on-one conversation. The other skill that I acquired was remembering people's names.
Mhm.
When you're performing, that is so important because everyone loves to hear their names.
Mhm.
And if you use their names, you immediately have their attention.
Yes. Yes.
So magic became my therapy. It gave me the understanding that my facial difference did not define me if I didn't let it.
Exactly. I love what you're saying about the empowerment of self and how this, there's also so many links to people who don't even have any kind of disfigurement, but they have a mental kind of
We
sense of
all have scars.
themselves. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We all
But
have scars.
yes, let's go back to because of since the podcast today is about how you didn't have a voice and then how you found it. You've just told us about how you found it. Let's go back and the when you had the surgery, you woke up and you realized that you were paralyzed on half of your face. And what did you feel? What was the thought there? Because that to me feels like what people I mean, I know you just described it how you might say it to an audience, but anything that just really the shock of it.
So, my surgery was 16 or 17 hours.
Wow.
So, as I woke up, it was like I was finding to get to the surface of a deep, deep pool.
Yeah.
And finally, when I came to, I looked and my dad was sitting on the bed holding my hand.
Mm,
And I smiled. And then I looked around the room for my mom. And I didn't see her because I needed glasses. So I asked my dad to put my glasses, and I immediately tried to put them on and realized my head was bandaged. So that was a trick in itself of getting my
mhm.
glasses. But then I looked across the room and I saw my mom, and the look on her face was one of horror.
Oh, 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 let me just feel that for a moment. What that I can imagine and feeling.
What did these surgeons do to my poor
Ah,
son's face?
uh-huh.
At that point, I didn't know my face was paralyzed. I had
Yeah,
a full feeling I just can't move it.
yeah. Uh-huh.
But that reaction, I was confused me. But in hindsight, as I healed, I realized that that was the moment that caused me to go into a darkness.
Yes.
If my own mom didn't accept the way I looked,
Uh-huh.
how was I supposed to love myself? How was I supposed to, move on with life?
Wow.
And that came from just really thinking about it.
John, how old were you?
I was 31.
And was there some way that the diagnosis, I mean, like, why, how has it just happened to people? Or was there any,
Yeah, this tumor was an acoustic neuroma. It's a tumor that grows on the hearing nerve.
okay.
There are three nerves in your head on each side: the hearing nerve, the balance nerve, and the facial nerve. And they're described to me by my surgeon as the consistency of wet linguine. And they're in a
Ah,
bundle. And so to remove the tumor, mine was the size of a golf ball. To remove
wow.
that tumor, they had to carefully scrape it off of the balance nerve and the facial nerve.
Yeah. Yeah.
And whatever they when I realized my face was paralyzed and my mom handed me her little compact mirror, makeup mirror,
Uh-huh.
and I looked at my face and I realized an hour after I had woken up,
Yeah.
I called the nurse and I said, "Get the doctor in here."
Yeah.
And one of the neurosurgeons came in and I said, "Doctor, what happened? What's
Yeah.
going on with my face? And he said, John, we monitored your face throughout the entire 15, 16-hour surgery, and we had good electrical connectivity until we closed the incision.
Uh-huh.
We think the swelling caused a temporary
Uh-huh.
effect on the nerve, but we have every confidence that as the swelling goes down, your face will start moving again.
Mm-hmm.
So I had hope, So after spending a week in the hospital recovering, I went home and all of a sudden I coughed and I realized the back of my head was wet and I developed a spinal fluid leak from the base of the incision. So I had to go back to the hospital and have them redo the incision and so forth. But it took a couple of weeks before I could start healing physically.
Mm-hmm.
And, I hit it home because I ran a computer consulting company and I could do that on the phone. I
Yeah.
didn't need to see people.
Mm-hmm.
That was long before Zoom and video casting. And
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
so, but at some point, I just got so miserable that I decided to see how what how I could play the part of myself as I was a trained actor as well.
Mm-hmm.
And magic just became that spark that allowed me to celebrate my differences instead of hide from them.
Oh, that's your message is so transformative. I'm going to take a quick break and we're going to come back and hear more about that transformation as well as how that those of us who are listening to you can take in, well, how does somebody with that kind of challenge, whether it's facial, whether it's visible or not, actually be able to find something within themselves that is their superpower. So be right back.
If you want to get started right away to find your voice, download Doreen's free 7-step guide to fearless speaking at doreen7steps.com.
Hi, we're back now with John Kippen, learning about his journey through a 17-hour surgery to get a brain tumor that was lodged in inside of his skull. And what happened during surgery or after surgery, he discovered that what had happened is that there was some kind of facial disfigurement because the nerve that controls the facial, I guess the whatever happens in our face was either damaged or somehow. So, but he got hope at first. The doctor said, "Hey, you should return to normal pretty soon," but it wasn't. And so, how does he listen? I mean, how does he live into a life where he feels that he's got a certain kind of deformity and plus? If you go back and listen to the first part of our episode, you'll see a story he told about a significant figure in his life, one that we all have. And there was a moment when he looked at his mother, and she looked at him in horror. And it was just like, wow. That moment when, John, when you told me that, it was kind of chilling. And it would be a moment where you go, oh my gosh, my own mother looks at me as if I'm deformed and ugly. Well,
A
and
monster.
a monster. Oh, well, thank you for being so forthright with all these very whew, words that are, yeah, that some people probably say to people who do have some facial or any kind of disability or any kind of, I hate to call it disability, because now we're going to get into what we're calling it D to D, disability to difference to celebrating, right? And we're talking about voice. Coming back to voice, though, is it felt like you said you were hiding in your office because you were doing computer work and you didn't need to get out in front of people, but what was that journey to transformation? I know you said something about remembering you loved magic.
Yeah, I love magic. I would practice magic at home. I was watching television and I saw a David Copperfield special, and then a friend of mine reminded me about the Magic Castle, which is a private magician's club in Hollywood. And I was making good money, so I joined as just an associate member, not as a magician performing member. And I would go in and I was just greeted with such warmth from that magic community that it gave me the courage to put together a 15-minute routine and audition. And I auditioned and I passed. Once I started feeling comfortable, and there was one magician who kind of took me under his wing and said, I know it's intimidating to have to put together 15 or 20 minutes of magic. So what I'll do for you is anytime you want to perform, you give me the high sign and I'm right in the middle of my show. I'll introduce you. You'll sit down, you'll take my chair, you'll do two tricks, and then you can just fade off into the background and I'll finish the show. And he only had to do that once or twice. And then I was hooked.
Oh.
And as I described why my face was paralyzed and how I turned it into a superpower of being able to visualize people's thoughts and do mentalism, people accepted me, especially women. And that being an overweight guy with glasses, with a balding hair, with a paralyzed face, trust me, attracting women, especially in Los Angeles, is no easy feat. But I would sit there and these women would start, the Magic Castle, you have to get dressed up. You have to wear a suit as a man and very fancy clothes. And so women dressed up to the nines, and it's a time for them to really show their beauty off. And so I'd be sitting at a table with 4 or 5 women, and I would look at their posture, and their hands would be across their chest, and their legs would be crossed, and they'd be leaning back. Because they didn't know what to make of me. They didn't know if I was going to be inappropriate, if I was going to be sexist, if I was going to come on to them. So they were there to see some magic, and they just were very standoffish. But once I started performing and learned their names and paid attention to them and made the magic about them,
Uh-huh.
I saw these walls start to drop in these women. The walls that women are forced to put up in today's society for self-protection against predators.
Yeah.
And by the end of the 30-minute performance, they were asking permission to hug me. And I thought long and hard, and a couple of the women I asked if I could call them in following days and just talk about what was going through their mind, what was going through their body and their heart when they went from being standoffish to being the most feminine they could be by offering them a bear hug to a strange man. And as I started talking to these women, and they didn't really know how to phrase it, and I said, let me give it a try. Did I give you permission to be vulnerable again? And they would spontaneously start crying.
Mm.
Because in that moment, they realized
Mhm.
what they had lost. They
Uh,
had lost their ability to be feminine,
uh-huh.
to be nurturing, just because of what today's society is like. And so I noticed so many times, there'd be a couple, and the woman is fixated on me. And out of the corner of my eye, I look at the husband, and they're like starting to get jealous a little bit. So I was very aware of that. But the women were like, we had no clue that our significant others were getting jealous.
Yeah.
Um, So that built my confidence to be able to go out and share my story and share my methodology. You
Well,
know,
now you talk about being an empowerment coach, and that's in some ways I see that you're doing that on stage in maybe a magic routine because of the what you understand about how to connect with people in your audience. But actually being an empowerment coach, what was that?
it was once I learned how to accept myself and love myself again,
Uh,
and not in my head, not mentally, but emotionally.
uh,
I could look in a mirror and say, "Yep, got a screwed up face. I'm not going to let it stop me."
uh,
Once I shared that, either verbally or just by my actions, funny story. So I spent 12 years learning how not to hide my face. And then what happened in 2020?
yes.
The pandemic came.
Uh-huh.
And now covering your face with a face mask was
Yes.
not only politically correct, but government mandated.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I thought to myself, damn, I am not going to hide my face another
Uh-huh.
minute.
Uh-huh.
So I found a company online and I sent them a picture of my lower half of my face and they printed that picture on a face mask.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And that's the mask I would wear.
Oh, wow. How brave of
And
you.
strangers wouldn't understand.
You're
And
right.
but people who knew me
Yeah.
would do a double take.
Yeah.
And that said volumes. They realized that I was not going to allow a global pandemic to make me hide again.
Yeah.
I was selected to do a TED Talk. And my TED Talk, when you TED Talk, it's one idea. So the idea I talked about is how to treat people who are different with respect and compassion. That was the moral and the
Yeah,
subject matter of my TED Talk.
for sure.
And I tell the story about I was in a restaurant having dinner and this in a booth, and right in front of me was another booth, and it was two parents and a little boy, 6, 7-year-old boy, and he was bored, so he had turned around and was facing me, and he was kind of looking at my face,
Curious.
curious. And he got up and he came over and he looked up and he said, "Mister, what's wrong with your face?"
Yes.
And before I had a chance to respond, his mom grabbed him by the arm and said, "Don't bother the nice man. He has enough troubles already."
Oh,
And then in that moment, I knew that my role was to share my story with them.
yes.
And I went over and knelt down so I was eye level with the boy. And I said, "You had a really good question." And I
Oh,
explained that I had a medical procedure that caused me not to be able to move my face. But it
uh-huh.
was my new face because it was different. Well, it was different just like yours. And the boy immediately accepted that answer. And I looked up at his parents, and the look on their parents were like,
Yeah.
cow.
Yeah.
It was one of shame
Yeah.
that they were imposing their views on their son.
Well, they saw it how quickly, and your story also shows our listeners how quickly attitudes form and how powerful self-acceptance, and then not only self-acceptance, but using your voice with the child and the family to speak truthfully and so that the child could understand. It was a little like your beginning story today around take out the garbage. You didn't know. You wanted to know why. And in essence, it's like you're you're going back to that same kind of people want to know why. You wanted to know why, and all you need to do is give a simple explanation.
Yeah,
So we're coming to an end, and I want to make sure and point to the coaching that you do, the empowerment coaching.
yeah. I teach my clients how to accept themselves, how to love themselves, how to take whatever their passion is and use that to introduce themselves to other people. Because when you are passionate about something, people are attracted to you, period. Because you exude confidence. And I help my clients get out of their own way. I teach them that being happy is a choice. You can choose to be happy or you can choose to be upset, and it's all a mindset.
Well, there's something else right in here that I think you help people learn. I've only just spent this short amount of time with you, but you can say you could choose to be happy or you could choose to be upset. Yes, but what is happy really? And I think that's probably what you help people discover inside of themselves, what happy feels like. I mean, it's like looking at the mirror and saying hello, and be happy as you look in the mirror and feel it. It's an inside job. Well, we're running out of time and I need to say goodbye. But before we do that, I always like to kind of wipe the slate clean and just take a breath and ask you to reflect today, and leave. I mean, you've already left us with John, so many nuggets of wisdom and guidance on how to be proud of ourselves and different. But what would you, in terms of closing our time together, when you listen to this now moment, what is it that wants to be said?
Follow your heart as opposed to your brain when dealing with other people, because you never know what people are going through. I have so many times seen someone post something on social media that is out of their character. We've all seen it, but most people say they chalk it up. Oh, he's having a bad day. Not me. I stop. I call that person and I say, Doreen, I saw that post and it didn't sound like Doreen that I know. What's going on? And it was there crying out for help, crying out for someone to notice them.
Well, you're demonstrating what it feels like to connect with people with heart. You've got a big heart that will take that step and reach out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it makes life worth living.
Yeah, I just today, speaking of social media, I saw that phrase, follow your heart, it knows the way. So maybe that's what we'll end with our conversation today. Thanks everybody for listening. This is Find Your Voice and Speak Up, and celebrating our differences. And thank you for being here.
Thank you, Doreen.
Thank you for being with us today for this episode of Find Your Voice, Change Your Life. Each person Doreen interviews shares what has helped them find their voice. You can learn from these guests and find your voice so you can be confident to speak up and speak out. And remember to download Doreen's free 7-step guide to fearless speaking at doreen7steps.com. We hope you enjoyed the show and will return next time. Until then, goodbye for now.